What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Jake C. Paulson podcast. Happy New Year. I know it's coming up in a couple of days. These last couple of weeks, we spent some time focused on creating a personal vision for this next year and years to come. And so that was the last two episodes that we focused on. So I wanted to dive into something a little bit different this week. Just because the new year's coming up, a lot of New Year's resolutions are happening. So hopefully this podcast talking about consistency can help some of you guys form those habits that you want to form this year. So I wanted to start off with a quote. This is from Jordan Peterson. He says, "What you most want to find will be found where you least want to look." Again, what you most want to find will be found where you least want to look. So the New Year's here, hence the glasses. And we've talked about how to set goals, how to build a vision for yourself. Now we're going to talk about how to become a consistent player. So last year, I went to an NBA game. I went courtside. And it's crazy. If you've never been courtside, I'd recommend it. They're expensive, obviously. But it's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I mean, to see those athletes really that up close is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And it's just to see how good they are, too. Like, dribbling with both hands, dribbling between the legs. It's like it's automatic. Dunking backwards, passing the ball, shooting, step back. Like, all this stuff is ridiculous how good they are. I had never been very good at basketball. I could dribble with my right. When I was younger, I could not dribble with my left at all. It was like a limp hand almost. Now I can dribble a little bit. I can sort of go between my legs. But these guys just make it look ridiculously easy. And we'll talk about why they make it look easy. Same thing with speakers, public speakers. For some reason, when someone's a really great speaker, I feel obligated to go up to them and ask them how they got so good at it, because that's one of the things that I want to get good at is public speaking. One of the reasons I actually made this podcast was so I can better my communication skills. As a side note, but I remember there's one speaker that we had in Nashville. There was an event down in Nashville, Tennessee, and the speaker, he's an author and he's a consulting coach. His name's Dave Brown, and he came to speak, and he did such a good job. He was very enthusiastic. He did a lot of pauses. He was phenomenal. And then I went up to him after. I asked him how he got so good, and to be honest, talking to like all these different speakers, they mostly say the same thing, all of them. But this is exactly what he said. I asked him how he got so good. He said, "I've done that 800 times, and you just saw the one." So he's done that 800 times. So again, we're going to be talking about consistency today since the new year's coming up. Let's talk about how to be a consistent player this year to take your business, your leadership, or influence in your community to the next level. So let's dive in. So, as some of y'all know, I do sales for a living. I'm a sales manager. And over the summers is where I sell the most in my job. And I've learned a ton from doing sales. A ton. But I would say the overlying thing that I've learned, the thing that sales has taught me, is that consistency is a virtue. Consistency is the action that gives me confidence to achieve whatever I set my mind to. For my first sales pitch in the job, pretty much my first sales pitch ever, I was horrible. I was awful. My first customer, I was awful. The only reason they bought was because I had a good attitude. That's the only reason that they bought, was because I had a good attitude. But I'll tell you what, by my 5th week, I was pretty good. I was a lot better than I was my first week. I was pretty dang good my 5th week. And that's really only because I was consistent and I did it sales pitch after sales pitch. Every hour I tried to do 2 or 3 sales pitches an hour for 6 days a week, week after week after week. So consistency over time helped me build a lot of skill, and I was naturally myself by week 5 doing sales. And I was pretty well by then. I was so consistent with it, and I was saying it over and over and over again. I did it so much that I was actually saying my sales pitch in my sleep. That's how much I was saying it. So consistency. Again, consistency. Consistency is the reason Tiger Woods was so good. Tiger Woods, this is his routine, his practice routine. He would wake up, he'd run 4 miles. He would hit balls for 2 to 3 hours. He would play 18 holes after he hit balls for 2 to 3 hours. Then he'd run 4 more miles after. Then he'd go play something like basketball or tennis with some friends. Talk about consistency. And by the way, from 1999 to 2000, Tiger Woods beat the field average, which means, again, in golf, that is going from the tee box to the cup, to the hole, trying to get the ball in the hole as little amount of times as possible. So he beat the average of the 140 people in the tournament, meaning that he had a lower score, because low is good in golf. So he beat the average of the 140 people in the tournament. He did that 89 consecutive tournaments. 89 in a row where he beat the average of those 150, 140 people that were playing. Consistency. Not to mention, he's won 82 tournaments in his career. He's won 82 of them. And he has won over $100 million throughout his career. Playing golf. Trying to get the ball in the hole as little amount of times. Another one, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, a fun fact, his trainer actually wrote a book, Tim Grover. Great book. It's called Winning. My all-time favorite book, actually. And he said in the book that after Michael Jordan had a game, whether it was a good game and he had 50 points or whether it was not a great game and he just didn't play that well, after every game, he would go up to him and ask him, what time are we working out the next morning? Michael Jordan never took the next morning off, whether it was a good game and he had, like I said, had 50 points or it was a bad game. He never took the next morning off. Now, there's consistency when things are going okay. There's consistency when you need consistency, right? There's consistency when you're like, I have to wake up tomorrow morning. I have to go to the gym. I have to do this. I have to do this because I want to be better, right? Your goal is to get better and be the best, or just get better at this one thing, or maybe stop doing this other thing. So consistency is like, I have to do this, right? That's one level of consistency. And then there's the level of consistency when you're already the best, when you're doing great, when things are just going your way. Then that little voice in the back of your head creeps in and says, you already did this for the past year. I mean, you can take a little bit of time off. Just you deserve it, right? You deserve a rest. There's that consistency. That's a consistency after the success. And this is really where you can set yourself apart. Again, I'm a very optimistic person. So this is really where you can actually set yourself apart from your peers, a lot of people in your life, because most people's mindset after success is that they could just do it again because they figured it out, right? They figured it out. They won it once. They won it twice in a row. In Michael Jordan's case, you won it 3 times in a row. He's figured it out, right? He probably doesn't have to play that hard the next year. Probably doesn't have to go to practice the next morning because he figured it out. But to be great at anything, you need to be consistent, and maybe more importantly, you need to stay consistent. You need to not let your ego get way too high. Because when the ego gets high, that's how people are on top for a season, 2 seasons, and then boom, something happens. You don't see them again because they got out of place, right? Benjamin Franklin wrote about in his biography. He talked about 3 things in his recipe routine. It's like his success recipe. But he talked about 3 unique things. His number 1 thing was investing in relationships purposefully and strategically. Investing in relationships purposely and strategically. Notice he doesn't say spending time with people. He talks about investing in relationships strategically and purposefully. So when he's talking about this, he talks about sitting down with people, not just to be with them, but to actually get something out of it. Now, he doesn't have an agenda when he's sitting down with people getting something out of it, but he's looking for ways where he can learn something always. Again, like we talked about last week, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. So he's making sure that his environment is something where he's going to be challenged by other people. It's something where he's going to learn things from these other people. They're going to think differently from him to make him view different points. So he's investing time with people. He's not spending it. Number 2, he talks about developing a daily routine and a daily structure to support his strengths and minimize his weaknesses. So one of his points on his daily routine was to sit down and reflect, read, learn something new, and pretty much recollect himself once a day. So every day he was recollecting himself. And that was helping him stay present in the moment, but also see the future a lot clearer than other people and be able to navigate around different problems. And of course, a daily routine. And then number 3, he talked about writing your goals and plans and tracking his progress. So he kept one thing that he did is he kept charts with him everywhere he went. So he was tracking his goals on a daily basis to make sure that he's doing the things that he said he was going to do. And he's tracking his progress, right? But he's also keeping these charts with him. And they say charts. I don't really know what that means. But if I were to imagine, it's something to remind him where he's headed. Like we talked about last week, we talked about vision boards, one of the things we talked about, which is just what you want to accomplish on a board, right? It's to remind you where you're headed. One thing you can do, obviously you can't carry around a huge poster board everywhere you go. Fold that thing up, put it in your pocket, right? But you can have a screensaver. That's a great one. On my screensaver, it just says, I think I've had it for like 2 or 3 years. It says, don't stress, do your best. Don't stress, do your best. And it just reminds me, why would I be stressed about this right now? The one thing I can control is how much effort I give into this. So I can do my best. That's all I can do. That's a famous quote from Art Williams. All you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is enough. Another one, Paul McCartney. So Paul McCartney said in an interview in 94, he said, we wrote a song a day. Whatever happened, we always wrote a song a day. Consistency. He said we got so strong because we wrote so much through our formative years. Again, consistent player. John Wooden came up with 8 laws of learning. Explanation, demonstration, imitation, and repetition are the first 4. Explanation, demonstration, imitation, and repetition. The next 4, repetition, 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 and repetition. Consistency, 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 and consistency. So the question is not really, how can I make this one resolution stick? Maybe you haven't had a lot of resolutions that have stuck, and that's fine. That happens every year. Okay. So maybe the question is not, how can I make this one out of all the other ones stick? The question really is, how badly do you want this one to stick around? How badly do you want this resolution to stick? And as we talked about with the top athletes, with the musicians, the coaches, the speakers, people at the top of their class, what gets them there and keeps them there is consistency. And it compounds over time. It's the one thing that will guarantee you will get better at whatever you're trying to get better at. It's the one thing, consistency. Just do it. You're going to get better at it eventually. Some byproducts of consistency, some symptoms, some side effects is planning. It's going to help you plan. If you know what you're doing next week, you can plan for next week because you're consistent. So you know exactly what you're doing next Tuesday. You know exactly what you're doing in a month. You know exactly what you're going to be doing in 2 months on that Wednesday. You don't have to wait until the week before to know what you're going to be doing because you are consistent. Helps you be proactive. Helps build trust. If you keep over time saying that you're going to do these things and you follow through and you actually do them and you're consistent with that, you're doing what Stephen Covey talks about. You're adding to the trust bank account. And eventually, when you need to make a deposit, that's okay because you have trust in there to make a deposit. But if you keep making deposits, no one's going to trust you. Self-discipline, it's a muscle. You're building up your self-discipline. You're gaining confidence through it. You're building up your reputation, your brand. You're building up your mental stability. With all of this consistency, winners know that the outcome is not the real success. The real success is the person that you become in the process of the outcome. Again, winners know that the real outcome is not the success, but the person that you become in the process of the outcome, that's the success. Steve Jobs said, the journey is the reward. Again, it's not how you're going to make consistent progress happen. It's a question of how badly you want that consistent progress to happen. Going back to the Peterson quote that we started off today with, the quote that says, what you most want to find is where you least want to look. So think about that. If you haven't had a New Year's resolution that has happened and you just haven't been able to have one stick, that's fine. But have you ever stopped to think that maybe where you're looking is not where it is? Maybe you need to look somewhere else. Maybe somewhere that is not really where you want to look. Maybe some things that you might have to do that you don't really want to do. You might find it there. Like the treasure under a dragon. There's a reason that dragon's on that treasure, right? No one wants to look there. So that is it for this episode of the Jake C. Paulson podcast. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, please leave a like, follow on Spotify. That way you stay up to date every Monday when a podcast gets dropped, when an episode gets dropped, and stay up to date every single Monday. And please, if you found this helpful, please share it with a friend. The only way this thing is going to build, this podcast is going to get recognized, is if you follow and share it with one other person. I'm not going to do ads or anything like that. So the only way this is going to actually scale is for the people that listen to share it. So if you found this helpful in any way, share it with a friend. Share it with that one person. Just send them a text message. It takes a couple seconds. And it's really, really helpful to me. And of course, I want some feedback too. So if you do have any feedback, DM me. I'm always open to it. I encourage it. And if you share this out, it's going to help me grow. It's going to help the podcast grow. And it's also going to help whoever you send it to as well. So thanks for listening. And again, the whole idea behind this podcast is really to just add some value to people who are striving to be better in their business, their leadership, and their community. So thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for next week. Until then, Happy New Year, and let's get after it. Peace.